Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. The Spring Cup meta is so different and unique as opposed to the Open Grey League meta that I don't even know which of these three Pokemon I want to feature on the thumbnail, but I got this really disgusting toxic team that helped me gain some elos, so I wanted to share it with you all. This team is obviously not the most unique. The Double Astonish backline featuring Klefki and Amoonguss has probably been run about 72 times in 72 different videos since like this cup released 4 days ago, but without taking too much of your time, let's just get into game number 1, and it is a barbaracle mirror. This is a very interesting mirror as you can both threaten the 4-time super effective Grass Knot on 5. They attempt to catch what would only be a cross chop, and I wasn't going to throw the cross chop there, and bring in a Togetic. And here, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I completely tossed this mid-game. I am selling. The Dazzling Gleam hits for quite a bit of damage. However, and they throw an alignment as well, so I could have really taken full advantage of this mid-game matchup. I'm opting to send the Flash Cannon here because I'm already at 100 energy. I have to they cycle reset me, so I kind of have to throw on alignment myself. I throw the Flash Cannon, and unfortunately, because they've seen how much damage they've done with Double Dazzling Gleam, they can just go for the Psyshock now, and it'd probably KO because this isn't the bulkiest Pokemon alive. Back in comes Barbaracle, but is forced to use energy to take out the Klefki. The Cross Chop will KO, and I'm going to bring in my own Barbaracle to threaten a knockout with my Grass Knot, but I'm really just baiting with the Cross Chop. Cross Chop nearly KOs, one further Mud Slap will do it. And now, likely back in comes that Togetic, but Togetic is not good news for the Amoonguss as they do have very quick pacing to that super effective Psyshock. And here I make a game-losing misplay as I'm going to no-shield the Psyshock, and they have their own Amoonguss in back. So this guy, also a fan of the Amoonguss plus Barbaracle core, but I guess didn't have a Klefki or a Mawile, so decided to run a Togetic in place. And it's working out for him here because unfortunately I'm going to be able to make one foul play to land on the Amoonguss, one to grab their shield, but I fall devastatingly short of the third, and now in comes Barbaracle. Barbaracle has its work cut out for it as it's only going to be hitting for neutral with the Mud Slaps and resisted with these cross chops. Come on, Barbaracle, they are going to fire off a move here. However, Barbaracle does win CMP over Amoonguss. They fire off the Grass Knot, meaning they likely don't have the foul play bait, opting for the double 50 energy moves of Grass Knot and Sludge Bomb, and the Cross Chop. You can't even see that HP bar on the Amoonguss, but it's enough so that we are going to get taken out by a Grass Knot. GG's. Not the best lead in the next game as it's going to be Barbaracle leading into a Ferrothorn, but this isn't necessarily terrible as Ferrothorn does run Bullet Seed, which does not have a whole lot of fast move pressure. I attempt to catch onto Klefki. Klefki, of course, being the designated safe switch on this team. And now we are going to fire off a foul play at the incoming Tentacruel. Tentacruel is getting chipped quite low with the combination of Astonishes and foul plays landing onto it. They're going to fire off a Scold in retaliation, and it's not going to get the debuff, meaning that this next foul play is going to hit for 100% of the damage it normally would. Foul play onto the Tentacruel is going to grab a shield. I don't think this is worth investing into, so I'm not going to shield whatever move this is. But if it's an Acid Spray, I'm going to be able to live this. Let's see, they go for the Scald. I was really hoping. Tentacruel players love just throwing the Acid Spray when opponents are low, kind of coping that an Acid Spray will just KO even though it never will. In comes the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is going to be met with a double cross chop by the Barbaracle. Number 1 does quite a bit of damage. They fire off a Bullet Seed, and now we're going to fire off Cross Chop number 2, demanding a shield from the Ferrothorn. One for the Mud Slap to catch of what would only ever be a Power Whip onto the Amoonguss. This is not going to do very much of any damage at all. And I'm going to get the screenshot for the boys for later. I hope they are eating good tonight. They are going to switch out into Mawile. Mawile's on Fire Fang in this cup. They've got no shields remaining. I'm going for the much harder hitting Grass Knot onto the Mawile. And it's a non-shadow Mawile, meaning that they're not even able to farm me down. I'm going for the foul play. Now Mawile is going to get shut down here. Back in comes the Ferrothorn, but there's no win con remaining. GG's. This next lead is great, but we're kind of walled in terms of energy, but they don't necessarily know that. I'm going to stay in with the barbaracle, get some mud slap damage. They safe switch into their Jellicent, and Jellicent not going to have a fun time as we're going to be able to fire off this super effective grass knot here, and now just pivot into one of our back two Pokemon. They are going to shield up, and Jellicents generally love to no-shield that move. I guess that guy might have queued into other Barbaracle Man, the one that was featured earlier in the video. They're going to fire off a Surf with Klefki. I do make a foul play, unfortunately non-stab. This is not going to do very much damage. Definitely not enough to KO. Jellicent's quite bulky, and Klefki is not known for its attacking prowess. It does hit, but it doesn't hit very hard. They are going to fire off a Shadow Ball to remove my Klefki, but now this is a perfect range for me to bring in the Barbaracle for the Mud Slap farm down. What is it they decide to bring in? It's going to be Cradily. Cradily is not also going to have very much fun going up against Barbaracle with these super effective cross chops, and I'm going to be able to fire off this cross chop before they're able to get a potential debuff on me. And I say a potential debuff on me because they are just simply not going to throw the grass knot here. They're going to go for the Rock Tomb. I'm going to shield it though because Barbaracle is very glassy and the Rock Tomb would definitely KO from there. I'm going to switch into my Amoonguss and they are going to bring in Jeezing. I have a call to make here. This is going to be difficult however this gets played out. It's going to be a brutal swing bait, and I'm really hoping I don't get overheated here, because if I get overheated, this game might very well just be over. We're going to fire off a Grass Knot at the Jeezing. Jeezing takes quite a bit of damage, but hangs on with just a thread of HP remaining. They're going to fire off a Sludge at the Amoonguss. What a move. Anyway, we are going to get that Astonish down. Back in comes Cradily, looking for the the neutral Grass Knot, and this is going to pick up a KO, because although Amoonguss doesn't hit very hard, it can do that at the very least. In the next game, Barbaracle into Jellicent. Love to see it, honestly. I don't hate this lead because oftentimes people are very unprepared for the coverage that Barbaracle has. Either they don't respect the cross chop when it's super effective, or they don't respect something like the hard hitting Grass Knot. So let's go ahead and see the reaction from this Jellicent user. They shield up the Grass Knot. This guy evidently must have queued up into other Barbaracle Man, and unfortunately for us, that means that we're going to have to go down a shield versus that Shadow Ball. We're going to safe switch into our Klefki, and we are going to get the 0-turn switch, so we get our Astonish through. They're going to fire off a move. It's going to be a Surf onto our Klefki, and they chip us into a range where now they can bring in their Mantine and probably maintain switch advantage. The switch timer has been desynced, however, because they decided to make that play, so we are going to be able to fire off this whole heap of energy they decided to give us. Very kind of them. Foul play number 2 onto the Mantine, now getting them really low. They're going to fire off a move here. I would imagine a lot of them are on Ice Beam, so I'm not going to respect this move whatsoever. And it is going to be an Aerial Ace. They will have to throw another here, and this is absolutely perfect. We threw 2 Astonishes, which is 3 wing attacks worth of energy, and they played into the losing CMP tie, and Klefki's able to flip switch. They're going to bring back in the Jellicent. They do get a 2-hex running start, and I'm just bringing back in Amoonguss here. They're going to switch out into their third and final Pokemon. It's going to be Abomasnow, and this can get a bit tricky. I'm going to have to call this. I don't think they're going to send the Energy Ball here. It's the Weather Ball bait, and they were really trying to grab my shield there, but it's not going to work. I'm firing off this Cross Chop. And now, let's see the reaction from the Abomasnow. They shielded up, so maybe they did queue into other Barbaracle Man not too long ago. I'm no-shielding this one as well. It's another Weather Ball, and we are in a very nice position here as we're going to be able to land this Cross Chop due to our opponent's inability to stop baiting. They're going to get hit with that hard-hitting Cross Chop. We're going to switch into the Amoonguss. No need to let them farm us down there. They're going to fire off a Weather Ball here. This would be the hardest hitting damage remaining left in the game. They bring in the Jellicent. The Jellicent will be able to get the CMP sack swap, but a Shadow Ball here just isn't going to do enough. Amoonguss is quite bulky, and now we're going to undercharge. It's not going to save us here because unfortunately they're going to get KO'd anyway, but they come in unable to make a further move and get farmed down by Astonish. Not a bad lead in the next game either, as Barbaracle is going to lead into Lapras. Hopefully the Lapras just throws their move as soon as they get it. Unfortunately, this guy is not going for that. In comes a Jeezing, and this is your switch into the Barbaracle. This is interesting. They're going to fire off a move. I'm not going to shield it. The worst this could be is a Brutal Swing, and unfortunately they are on Brutal Swing, but I'm at 100 energy with this Barbaracle, and I'm going to absolutely force their hand here. Grass Knot does a lot of damage onto the Jeezing, and I think I can just go for the 1-shield farm down here. So I am going to shield up this Brutal Swing and now go for 1 further Mud Slap. Down goes the Jeezing, and if the Lapras gets brought back in, I'm going to be able to fire off the back-to-back Cross Chops. Cross Chop onto the Lapras isn't the most hard-hitting damage ever, but when you're able to go for 2 of them, it really starts to add up onto the Lapras. So they're going to double shield cross chops. In comes Klefki. Klefki realistically just looking to absorb this Lapras energy as their Psywave user, and oh my goodness, 2 Sparkling Arias would KO. In comes a Fire Fang mawile in the back. However, we have a lot of health remaining on our barbaracle. Maybe not a lot, but definitely enough to live the double resisted Fire Fangs, and that's another highlight of barbaracle in this cup. They're going to go for the power up punch, but that's not boosting those Fire Fangs very much at all now, is it? We get the full farm down and we leave with a cross chop. Now this is a Shadow Lapras, however it's still very, very bulky, so the cross chop is not going to be enough to KO. We bring in Amoonguss, and now if this is an Ice Beam, we might actually just be cooked here. Ice Beam, infinite amounts of damage onto the Amoonguss. We're not able to land that Astonish as we get Psywave down. In comes the barbaracle. We live the Psywaves and get the KO. GG's. And into the next match. Oh, what an awkward lead in Pelipper. You would think the rock type barbaracle would have a fine time going up against Pelipper, but unfortunately that is absolutely not the case. They're going to fire off a Weather Ball here. And Weather Ball, look at the damage. Glassy Pokemon onto Glassy Pokemon. That did not look as if it was just a neutral 35 energy move to me, but what do I know, I suppose. We're going to fire off the Grass Knot, and we are able to grab a shield. I was thinking about cross chop baiting to maybe bait if I had Stone Edge or not, but I'm not even sure how familiar people are with barbaracle, so I just decided to go straight for the damage. Speaking of going straight for the damage, 1 for the Mud Slap and a Grass Knot will get us some solid damage onto this Pelipper, and realistically here we're just looking to put it into farm down range. They are forced to throw as a cross chop would very likely KO from the range that the Pelipper is at, and now we're going to bring in Klefki for the farm down. Klefki comes in, they're going to be able to make a Weather Ball here. Unfortunately, this Pokemon's still ridiculously spammy, but that's fine by us. We're going to go for the Astonish down, the hard switch into Golisopod, and I'm going to fire off a Foul Play. Golisopod, I've seen a myriad of movesets, but I would imagine the best moveset is probably the same one that you run in OGL, being the Aqua Jet and X-Scissor. They're going to fire off a move onto Amoonguss, and this one's on Aerial Ace, so that's quite a surprise. I'm going to fire off a Foul Play. Unfortunately, I'm going to get hit with an Aerial Ace here. Aerial Ace onto Amoonguss. Not the hardest hitting move, so Amoonguss is quite easily able to tank. Going to go for 2 further Astonishes, and now go for the Foul Play. Golisopod's glassy enough where that's going to easily be able to pick up the KO, and in the back they have Ferrothorn, and this isn't looking too good for me. They're going to be able to catch my Foul Play onto their Pelipper, and I might just be cooked here. This is not feeling too good for me. I am going to now go for the Foul Play. They do have to use quite a bit of energy to get rid of my Amoonguss here, because I don't think a double resisted Power Whip would do it from here. These are 2 pretty bulky Pokemon. Let's go ahead and see what they do. They full send the Flash Cannon. That is a surprise. In comes Klefki. Klefki able to make a last second Foul Play before they're able to make a further Flash Cannon. And down goes the Ferrothorn. That was very tricky in the end, but GG's nonetheless. In the next match, we've got our Barbaracle leading into a Girl Jellicent. Anybody else think that Girl Jellicent's way uglier than Male Jellicent? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, we're going to fire off the Grass Knot as soon as we get it, and it is looking to be another CMP tie. Grass Knot, massive damage onto the Jellicent. I could decide to shield here, I could decide to not. I live any move that this is, and they're not going to be able to farm me down, but I'm going to be able to farm them down. That is a case-by-case basis. I've seen some Jellicents live on like 1 HP there. I'm going to have to maintain alignment here, as Tropius would be very bad news for our Amoonguss in the back, so we are going to just play to maintain alignment, let them farm us down, because this energy isn't going to go very far into the Klefki anyway. Now they are going to fire off the Aerial Ace. Tropius is also a very tricky Pokemon to deal with on lead. Maybe one of the reasons why I considered switching over from Grass Knot to Stone Edge, but I just think Grass Knot is so clutch for situations just like how the lead matchup played out. I'm going to fire off a Flash Cannon onto the Tropius here. Tropius is nearly going to get KO'd. 1 further Astonish will do it. And now in the back, it's Mantine. And Mantine's not going to have a very fun time, as Klefki is going to be able to make multiple Foul Plays here. And an Aerial Ace is not going to be enough to KO. They're shielding up. And now they can fire off an Aerial Ace here. It won't kill me, though. Actually, wait, no. This is actually the game where I confidently said this isn't going to kill, and then it did. Wow, that is probably the most Shmeaty thing I've ever done. Nevertheless, we're going to bring in Amoonguss, but with 2 shields, there's not really a whole lot of hope for this Mantine, especially with them being forced to throw energy here and make 3 aerial aces, this is just not a good time. Wing attack is not the quickest pacing move anymore. A foul play is going to grab the shield from the Mantine, and Mantine is now so low due to the toxic fast move pressure of this team and this cup as a whole that one further foul play will be more than enough to KO. GG's to this trainer. Now, barbaracle leads into a Wheezing. Oh, you love to see it. I love the Wheezing lead. And they are going to switch out immediately. These people have all queued into Barbaracle Man, apparently. In comes Dugong, but Dugong is going to be tasked with shielding this move up. And the reason being is because they would not have a whole lot of fun if they get a non-debuff Grass Knot, Stone Edge, or Cross Chop land onto them for that matter. I'm going to switch out into Klefki here, kind of expecting them to just go straight for the Icy Wind as every Dugong has ever done. But this guy's looking to break the mold, fires off the Drill Run at the Steel type. That's an intelligent play. I've never seen that one before, but you love to see it. These people are adapting. Anyway, they're going to fire off a move here. I'm going to shield it up. This, I think, could be an Icy Wind that would KO, but I am going to fire off this foul play. They concede switch advantage, and I've got a Mud Slapper for this Wheezing, so this isn't very good for them. They're going to now be able to fire off at maximum Brutal Swings at me, but I'm going to fire off this Grass Knot, and this is going to do sizable chip damage onto the G-Zing. G-Zing is going to be able to make a move here. I mean, the hardest hitting move they have is Brutal Swing for the Barbaracle. They fire off the Sludge. Sludge hurts quite a bit, but we're going to be able to tank it no problem. And now, see what it is they want to bring out. They decide on bringing out the Dugong as they don't really want to deal with this Barbaracle energy. I call that they would go for an Icy Wind there and go for a farm down, as a lot of Dugong players love to do that when you're quite low on HP. In the back, it's Jellicent into the Amoonguss, and Amoonguss is having a real good time today as we're just going to bring in the Klefki now. I think we're not even going to get farmed down before we make the foul play. This is terrible stuff for my opponent. This is the most toxic nonsense I've ever ran. But I mean, hey, if it works, they're going to bring in the Dugong, not even attempt for the farm down as we have a shield remaining. They don't want to play the game anymore. The Spring Cup is absolute nonsense, and I agree with them. Nevertheless, another Jellicent lead onto our Barbaracle. We're going to play this out the same way as before. Sometimes I like to shield, sometimes I don't. I don't have a specific game plan for when they decide to let this go. I just know 9 times out of 10, they're letting it go just like that, and they're going to fire off a move in return. I'm going to no shield because, as we know, they're not going to be able to Hex down. They go for the Surf, but 3 more Mud Slaps will KO. They got to switch out into their Klefki. Klefki is going to be hit with 3 Mud Slaps and a Cross Chop here. Cross Chop going to do some sizable damage as well, as Klefki's not the bulkiest Pokemon around. I think I might just be able to get the Mud Slap through. That is unfortunate. We are not going to be able to get basically a 2-for-1 special with the Barbaracle, but he's done more than enough work in this game. Foul Play is not going to do a lot of damage onto our Klefki. They're going to bring in their Astonish Mawile in the back, and Mawile's just overwhelmed here. There's too much fast move pressure for this very frail Pokemon to deal with, and they're letting moves through while they have 2 shields, so this is just cooked. Unfortunately for the Mawile, they're going to go for the Power Punch. It's not going to do enough damage to even allow them to be able to farm us down, so they have to go for a catch onto the Jellicent, and now we're going to go for the Foul Play. Foul Play KOs the Jellicent, and we're not even going to get farmed down by the Mawile. They won't even see third. GG's to this trainer. Oh my goodness, what a lead. It's Barbaracle into Tentacruel. Man, stupid Barbaracle man ruined my fun, and everybody knows my meme. Everyone knows I'm on Mud Slap. You hate to see it. Anyway, they're going to bring in their Amoonguss. The hardest answer in the cup is going to likely either be Mawile or the Klefki, because everything the Amoonguss can throw is going to be resisted into the Steel Fairy typing. And now Flash Cannon, they're going to shield it up. That is an interesting play. Honestly, I think I'm at such a disadvantageous position that I wouldn't even hate no shielding there, but I would probably end up giving this Amoonguss more farm than it would be comfortable with. I'm going to fire off a Foul Play here, and realistically, I didn't expect to grab the shield here, but I'm super content with the fact that I did. That was nowhere near a second Flash Cannon, and that Foul Play was never KOing, as a non-shadow Amoonguss is very bulky. They are now down 2 shields. I have a decision to make on which of my 2 Pokemon I decide to bring in here. And I decide that Amoonguss is probably the better overall play, because I can fire off multiple moves into the Tentacruel if they decide to bring that in, because they're not going to bring it back into the Barbaracle. It's a Shadow Tentacruel. It's going to get it farmed down from just about full. They get my last shield here, but in comes the Tentacruel, and Shadow on Shadow, these Foul Plays are not going to mess around. Foul Play onto the Tentacruel does a sizable amount, and they're in a legitimate fear of not making a further move here. I'm going to go for the foul play once again, and now bring in the barbaracle for the snipe. If they decided to throw one further poison jab there, I would have gotten the snipe, but they intelligently decided to go for the acid spray. In the back, it's going to be Ferrothorn. They are tearing through me with these bullet seeds. I've never seen bullet seed do so much damage, but nevertheless, we're going to be able to fire off a cross chop onto the Ferrothorn, and now they have to send the power whip here. But how are they going to get rid of this Shadow Amoonguss with all the energy it has remaining? That is not power whip range for them. They are only just at another power whip now. So even if this doesn't KO, we're going to be able to get the farm down, but it KOs. GG's to this trainer. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it was a bunch of toxic, degenerate nonsense, but I had fun in the Spring Cup nonetheless, and I hope you guys had fun watching this video. Barbaracle's pretty interesting. The combination of Mud Slab, Cross Chop, and Grass Knot allow it to have a lot of interesting coverage into the meta, and I think it's actually pretty good. I wouldn't necessarily recommend building one if you don't have any Stardust or resources, but I think it's pretty fun. All that being said, thanks once again so much for watching today's video. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.